I believe everyone has a story to tell. Through seeking true, authentic insights about the entrepreneurial journey, I provide a platform for our peers to share their stories and inspire those that listen. This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. My guest this week is a keynote speaker on technology, speaking at more than 200 global events. He's interviewed and conducted fireside chats with names such as Kim Kardashian, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, Steve Wozniak, twice, and more at the world's best tech events. He was previously a weekly tech columnist for Forbes in New York, the Telegraph in the UK, and contributed to FT, MIT Tech Review, Mashable, Wired, Newsweek, TechCrunch, The Guardian, The Independent, Times of India, and many more.
Times of India, yes, true.
He continues to write regularly for the BBC and The Economist, and a weekly column on finance for City AM. He has appeared in 2 Bollywood movies as an actor. Love that. And over the past decade has worked as a strategist with 25 companies and created an accumulated value of 1.2 billion through Series A and D funding and exits. I thought I bought a few hats, mate.
I was going to say, it makes me sound good.
I am delighted to welcome Monty Munford to the podcast. Monty, how you doing, mate?
All right, Sam, I'm high. Big Brentford fan.
Mate, you're buzzing at the minute,
yeah? We beat Liverpool last night. I was there with my son. We hadn't beaten them since 1938. You know, it was just insane.
Did it end up 3-1? Was it 3?
3-1, yeah. And we've beaten United 4-0 at home. We've beaten City 2-1 away. I mean, we're getting quite serious now. These are not.
So what you got up to? 7th or something?
7th. And we're looking up, man, not down. You know what I mean?
Mate,
I
wow.
mean, but 4 games: away to City, home to Spurs, home to Liverpool.
Let's not mention the Spurs.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, you were lucky to get a point.
Yeah,
yes.
mate.
Would you agree?
I would agree. But we'll skip over that.
All right. Well, you know.
Mate, buzzing for you.
Look behind you. These are coming to get you. Yeah. So I'm in a very, 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 very good mood, mate.
Mate, love that. Listen, look, we only met recently. We obviously grabbed a lunch, and I'm just fascinated by. I was put in touch with some mutual friends.
Yeah.
Mate, just fascinated by your journey and story. And look, I'm buzzing to have you on, and let's crack on.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation.
Awesome.
I hope I don't let you down,
mate. I'm sure not. Well, look, let's jump in. I want to start your story really. Look, tell me a bit about what life was growing up, and I want to know like something about your early years that sort of shaped you today.
Blimey, good question. Lower middle class parents, I would say. Mum was young when she had me, 21. Dad was 30. He was an ex-sailor in the Navy. Then 3 sisters after me. So I suppose I was a little bit privileged as the only boy, born on a Sunday. It was drilled into me that I was special, which has probably led to some later life narcissism, which I've managed to finally slough off. So it was a perfectly normal West London family, born in Twickenham. When I got into a really good school, there was a school there called Hampton Grammar. I went to Trafalgar primary school, and 8 of us out of 120 got into Hampton Grammar, which was amazing. But then it kind of turned a little bit, because when I went into the 4th year at school, it became Hampton School. So all of the existing pupils didn't pay, but anyone that came in the first year paid. Funnily enough, I went to my 50th year reunion, first day, to see, and it was just extraordinary. That time, it's 50 years since we walked up that path and all that stuff. It's a very profound experience, actually. But I think, and I said this at the reunion, that a few people in my year got a bit hoity-toity over the summer. They've been talking to Mummy and Daddy, you know, Karen and Ken or whatever. We go to public school now. You know, it's like, well, I mean, I nearly swore there, but you know, whatever. You were just like me. You were clever when you were 11. That's all. That's the reason we got into that school. And I didn't grow. That was another thing. I was 4 foot when I was 16. I was 4'9", and when I did A levels, I was 5'2". So my nickname was Ronnie Corbett. You know, which is ironic now that I'm 6'2". And I did mention that at the reunion. You know what I mean? So when they did the picture, they said, you that was about 25 of us. You go there, Monty, you're one of the tall ones, go at the back. And it was like, bang, Dragon Slade, right there. 7 years of piss taking. Yeah, dwarf.
Love it.
So yeah, but that was pretty definitive because it was rebellious, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It was rebellious. We had a school next to us was Lady Eleanor Hollis, which had so many pitches. We had so many cricket pitches in the summer, so many football pitches in the winter, and then the comprehensive rectory on the far side had one football pitch. And it's like, this is not fair. You know what I mean? And I suppose early communism, early socialist, early kind of rebellious streaks started just about then.
Right, fair play. But what, like, in them young ages, what did you want to be in, like, at school? What did you? Was you a dream of what you wanted to do when you grew up?
No. I don't think My son did a career. He's 19, nearly 20 at uni, doing zoology at Leeds.
Yeah.
And he did a careers thing at school when he was about 15. And they said, all right, that's what you want to be. And they said to him, there's either a driver or a drifter. And you're a driver and you want to work with animals and zoology. And I said to him, I'm still a drifter. I'm a writer. I suppose that's my thing. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to be a writer. I didn't read or anything like that when I was younger. I just enjoyed myself, really. I didn't really have any plans for the future. No, I just did things I liked.
That's such a refreshing thing because and it's interesting you talk about that with like the careers type thing in school because it's interesting they've said that about your son. They've obviously highlighted that.
Yeah,
for
there's
him.
a difference between me and him, very much so.
Yeah, but I think for me at school, I wasn't that academic, so you sort of come out and I had no clue.
Really?
If I weren't going to become a footballer, I had no clue what I was going to do. As soon as I didn't quite make it, I had them couple of trials and it didn't come off. You go, okay, I haven't no clue. And similar to yourself, then you, I guess, drift or whatever. But in that sense, just trying different things. I think we spoke about it when we met previously, but I guess being an entrepreneur wasn't necessarily a thing back then. Like you go back. I couldn't spell it, didn't know what it, still can't spell it now, but, it wasn't encouraged necessarily, so you're starting your own business or going and trying different things wasn't necessarily encouraged.
Well, I think when I was younger, it was kind of frowned upon to be, I don't know who my crowd was or whatever, but I was against Margaret Thatcher, in those days, which side are you on? I was certainly on one side. And it was almost vulgar. I can't spell entrepreneur either, and I'm a writer. ENTREPRENEUR, yeah.
I'll let you have that. I think I might have it written here somewhere. Yeah, you got.
And so those, I don't think anyone really knew what that existed. It's a very new word if you're kind of my age. An entrepreneur. I don't think I ever heard that word until I was 25.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to talk obviously, I mentioned in the intro about the time in obviously being in the Bollywood movies, but take me on to that. So in 2000, prior to that, you've wrote, I travelled the world for 20 years doing stupid things, but also seeing and experiencing the wonders of the world as it should be.
Yeah.
Tell me then, talk me through them 20 years. So you've come out, and like you say, not having a dream or an ambition to go and do something, but just going and then travelling the world. Talk to me about them.
Well, I
suppose maybe some of the stupid things that.
I suppose it was kind of. It was because of the way I behaved at that age. I got a small criminal record when I was young. You know what I mean? Like a little possession of smidgen of cannabis when it was a really bad thing. You know what I mean? That was on my record. And I think that might inadvertently created the life I led because I think there were unknown doors closed to me at that time because I had a criminal record. And I think that having a criminal record is one of the best things that you can have if you want to be an entrepreneur, because no one's going to have your back. I think I might have had blocks put on jobs because of that, even 30 years later.
Wow.
But I was all about fair. I was all about the world. It's like I wanted to live in a better society than I lived in. My mum and dad were decent people, but they weren't exactly exciting. You know what I mean? And my three sisters were, one's a senior academic now, one's was an accountant, another one's a new mother. They've all had strange lives themselves. And I suppose it was, I just, as I said earlier, just drifted. I did my A-levels. I don't even know what I got in my A-levels.
What did you study? What did you study at A-levels?
Jesus, geography, economics. I don't know. Can't remember. But it wasn't. I wasn't academic, like you said. You were. Well, we all wanted to be footballers, but I mean that dream stopped when I realised I was never going to grow ever again as a goalkeeper. And so I just drifted, women, girls, I suppose that was probably the be-all and end-all. And then a mate of ours from the pub, he'd gone to Israel on a kibbutz. And things weren't that good, 1979, 80, 81, before I went. It was a massive, it was a little bit what we're living through at the moment. It wasn't so much, inflation had passed a little bit, and I think this will happen here as an A-level economist, let me tell you. Not. But it was all about unemployment, and getting a job. And even though I was in kind of southwest London in Twickenham, there wasn't a lot there, jobs, signing on and all that stuff. And I didn't want to sign on because I thought that was free money. And so a mate of ours went to, him and Phil, they went to the Mallorca. Mate of ours, Phil, had a kind of posh uncle there. So we went home after 2 weeks, and then Phil and Paul stayed there, and then walked over the Pyrenees. Paul got the bug for travelling, went on a kibbutz on his own, and then just sent me a letter. And I read it just before I went to the pub on a Sunday to play football, and just like I was drunk in Bethlehem. Oh, wow, I'm living on this farm and there's all these girls again. So then I said to my mate, listen, go in the back of my motorbike, let's just drive to Israel. And he didn't want to do that. So eventually there were 4 of us. We went to this agency in London, and then I think it was February 82 or 83, we got the equivalent of a magic bus to Athens, got a boat, 3-day boat to Haifa, and went on this kibbutz and worked the land, worked in the kitchens, all in a very...
How old were you then?
22.
Wow.
22. I stayed for 6 months. My mates, there's nothing against them, but we were going in different directions, and I embraced it. They were just a little bit, bit yobby about it, to be honest. So they left, and I stayed, and then I kind of grew into my own. I was kind of on my own, and I preferred being on my own than being with a crowd, and I was more myself. And then met a girl, went to Sweden, and then just rolled on, and then went travelling, and went back to Israel. Then I went somewhere else, and then I was really into motorbikes, so it was easy to come back and get a job as a dispatch rider for a few months, save some money, and off you go. And it just carried on for. It's like some people have gap years. I had a gap 2 decades. But I was reading all the time. That was the thing. It's because I realised that the way that I was taught to learn in school or the cloisters was not for me. Maybe the same for you. I wanted to be a professional footballer. We all did. Or a football journalist. Failed on that one as well. But it was like when I realised that I could learn at my own pace and whenever I wanted, and then would meet some crazy people that I wanted to be like when I was travelling. You should read Hermann Hesse, you should read Dostoevsky, you should read Ayn Rand. I just kind of went word of mouth of all these, and seeing amazing places while I was reading amazing books, while I was with amazing people, and occasionally with most, beautiful women, I suppose. And that seemed to me the way to live. I wasn't bumming or drifting when I was travelling. I was learning, And I just went on a week-long hard travel trip to Egypt with my 19-year-old. We went to Cairo. I speak Arabic, kind of picked that up on the way as well. And actually I do speak Arabic because I hadn't spoken it for ages, but I really was talking it this time. Wow. It just came back. It was a really nice feeling, actually. We went up and down, and we got to Luxor. And it was just like, Jack, when I was here last time, there wasn't a bridge. There wasn't all of these lights. There was literally one paddle ferry boat that went across. There was no charges to get in. There was hardly any people. You'd see a Bedouin guide give you a tour of the Temple of Karnak. And it was a bit like Vegas, But I think I knew that at that time, that I wasn't stupid. I knew the world was going to change. I didn't want it to. I did think that technology was going to be rife when I was older. I did think that the world would be different in a way that I probably wouldn't like. So I wanted to see the world that I wanted to see while it was still there. And that was reinforced and endorsed by this trip to Egypt. Great to speak Arabic, great to be in Cairo. That's still manic and hasn't changed. But these tourist spots, you know what I mean? And I'll show Jack, I'll dig out the photo albums and he won't believe it. that is the same place. And I think that's what I wanted to see the world while it was still there. And I'm really, really fucking glad I did.
No, you know what? I listen to that and I love because I think I think about my kids now and I think about them growing up and my wife, for example, she knew from a young age at 11 I want to be a solicitor. And to get there, she had to go through university, blah blah blah, and she's been a solicitor for the last 20 odd years.
Right.
Now, where I come out and didn't know, I'd love the kids to come to me rather than go, don't know what I want to do, Dad, I'll go to university and I'll do that. For me, that lifestyle and being able to, because the experiences that you must have had over those 20 years, life experiences that more so than anything you can learn from just in a book, anything you can learn from going to university, anything you can learn, like just travelling the world and going and seeing what an amazing place it is.
But I would say, I don't think my mum and dad will pretty agree with that. The stress that I cause them, or the worry.
But what about if your son comes to you and wants to, like, he didn't go to university to do it, and said, Dad, I'm just going to go and, what would your bit?
Well, I think my son's nearly 20, and you're how old are yours?
7, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote him a card when he was about 3 and just said, the older you get, the wider your shadow is cast, and as your shadow grows, I'll be on the edge of the shadow. You make your own way, but if anything goes down, then I'm ready to jump in. And as he gets older, obviously the shadow's wider, but I'm still on the edge, and it hasn't really changed. I think what you have to do with your kids, you have to make them independent. He's had a good start in life, and now it's up to him. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm still on the edge, and I'm jumping if needed. But if you said, I would probably be a bit of a hypocrite, because it would be like, but what are you going to do when you do that? You know what I mean? And if he says, well, no, I don't know, well, you got to do something, But it took me a few years. I think the first couple of years it was kind of doing what you do when you're young, not really giving a toss about it. But I think when I was about 25, I was in India and was with some people on the top of a mosque late at night, looking down at Parganj. And there's Aussie blokes going, mate, I can't believe it. Look at all the colour. Look at all the noise and the colour and the smells. And I looked at it and went, oh, whatever, I've seen it all before. And that was probably when I started to do something. I was reading, I was writing, because you can't just be there as an observer. You've got to be doing something while you do it. I mean, but, when you're young, earlier than that, just go for it, I suppose.
Yeah. Because I guess not as romantic as that idea is to go and travel and see the world, and like you said, it's got to be potentially some purpose, more of a purpose than just going like you said. Because how many places you've seen, and then you've seen the world, and you've travelled for 5 years or 10 years, whatever that looks like, and then you go, like you said, I've seen that before, I've seen that. So then there's got to be something that fulfills us, I guess. And
yeah, you're right. Purpose. You have to have some purpose. I think my one came when I was about 23 and thought, right, I'm going to be a writer. That means I can write about things and I can live like this forever. Because I love living like that. I absolutely loved it. And it was dangerous sometimes. But again, that was also part of the growing up stuff, being tested.
Well, then talk to me then about like that fulfilment that you see is writing out of all the different, because you, like you said, we'll go into a little bit more depth in some of the other bits and pieces you do, but is writing, is that where you get your most fulfilment?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I went around the world in 1994 when I was about 30 odd, again presaging technology a little bit, or trying to front run it, to write a book. So I had a Mont Blanc pen, and I went to about 10 countries and I wrote a book. It took me 349 days less than that actually, about 310 days to write it. I was in Perth in Australia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. All of these mad things happened to me when I was doing it, and that was all also percolated into the work itself. But I wrote a book with a pen, and that's probably the greatest thing that I own, is that manuscript, because it started off with The Dust Bowls of Maturity by Monty Munford. 1 page, you know what I mean? And then the next page was 5 lines. And then halfway through, it was 50 lines a page with a fountain pen, because I got it. I'd started to roll, you know what I mean? So I suppose that was a really fantastic year. I ended up in Berkeley in San Francisco with a girl. She lent me a computer, taught me how to use an Apple Mac, and I typed it all up. I went across the bridge to Vesuvio's, which is a famous restaurant where Jack Kerouac and the Beat Generation used to take drugs and drink. And I was there years before, and I said, I'll be back with a manuscript. And I went in there and just laid the manuscript on the bar. I went, I came back 8 years ago. Here's my book. Everyone bought me a drink. It's a perfect place.
Wow.
And I suppose from that point, when I got serious and I came back, I bet it was probably the last big trip. And then I kind of moved to Brighton, and then I started, well, if I'm going to be a writer, I may as well learn how to be a writer. I did a couple of courses, did an amazing course at the London College of Printing. I was quite old, I suppose, for that. But it was 75 people a year. It was a 2-month course, 2-year course in 3 months.
Yeah.
Learn about law, learn about shorthand, get yourself on your own volition. An internment, so I went to the Independent's sports desk, obviously.
Yeah.
Realised that I didn't want to work in football because I was so stuck with football. That when I was on the train home reading that Klinsmann had taken over at Spurs, it was just, I'd heard it all day. You have to separate church and state, right? So separate football and job, or what you love. And since then, I learned. I just about got in before the internet started. I realised that the only way I could catch up 20 years later was with new stuff. Ironically, technology, which I'd railed against forever. And caught up pretty quickly. I was a communications director on the first series of Big Brother. Victoria Real was a big company down in Brighton. And then I had columns, and then I wrote my own newsletter, and I still write on my blog and all that stuff. But everything was in practice to write another book. Oh. And in 3 days' time, with a head full of thoughts and madness, I'm going to Vancouver Island, invited by someone who I met on the previous trip in '94. We had some nice times in the lift, long story. She's going up north to do some social care with the Inuits in the Arctic Circle, and I'm looking after her house. And she's told me to go over there and finish my effing book. So it could be that life replicates itself. I'll get in the woods for 7 or 8 weeks. I've done 30,000 words, by the way. This is book number 2. And it could be that I type this book, and then I get a flight from Vancouver to San Francisco and go back to Vesuvio's 27 years later for the second time and say, here's my second book.
Here's my other menu.
So I'm just a hopelessly ridiculous romantic man. That's all I am,
Mate, but what? You know what? Out of all the people I sort of interview on here, I talk about on the podcast and listen to the different stories, and we talk about entrepreneurial journeys and ups and downs and etc. And we're going to some sort of challenges and other bits. But there's something I've been trying. I guess a bit of self-discovery for me last year, really. And the podcast helped me with that. Listening to different, asking the question, what it's all about, what we're here for, all them things. But listening to someone like you talk, and life's for living, and it's an opportunity. That my belief is life's an opportunity, and I think I've been a bit of a yes man. Someone says, "Oh, can you do that?" Yeah, I'd give that a go. Not to the scale that you have, but in a smaller version. And you sort of go just in and around my circle. Go, yeah, I can do that. I'll do that, and then that creates opportunities, and that creates experiences that you do in life. And there's something about that is that romantic side of it that is actually just what, because on our deathbed, because you're going to be lying there on your deathbed, you look back, hold a thought, and gone, you know what? Look at that life, look at that experiences, look at them things that you've done. That there's not going to be regrets. Not that what if? What if I'd done that? What if I hadn't?
I don't know. I mean, lots of people say, "Je ne regrette rien." And I think we all regret things. Everyone says that, but we always regret certain things.
What would you say if I said, "Well"?
I wish I'd gone to South America when I was younger. I've never been to South America. Should have done that. I had a chance to go with someone, and turn it down for Egypt, I think. But that also means I can still go to South America. In fact, it's on the list for the next 18 months. So you can't. You do regret things. It depends how you're feeling. Yeah. If you're feeling in a certain way, you do feel regretful. If you're feeling great, like Brentford have just beaten Liverpool 3-1, you don't give a shit.
You're on top of the world.
18 months ago, going through a divorce, I felt very different about life, But that's also a profound experience. It's not just about having experiences and seeing wonderful places when you're travelling. It's also your personal life, you know what I mean? I am a father of a son. I went through a period of miscarriages with my ex-wife, which was terrible, but it was also a profound experience to get through it. A marriage, then a divorce. These are also things that are right up there with human experience, as well as climbing a pyramid or, jumping in the Ganges or whatever. These are just as kind of profound as doing things, that are seemingly more romantic. You know what I mean? You have to kind of do those things. It would be, I don't think I would be, I love my boy, obviously, but if I'd travelled and travelled and travelled and travelled and hadn't stopped to have a family, I think I would have been a bit lonely and a bit bereft. And as it is now, I live quite beautifully in solitude. I'm really happy to sit for hours and hours reading the paper, doing a crossword, writing some words. It's like I'm in love with words. You know what I mean? And I love people, my friends as well. But
but I guess that again, back to that thing, what we're here for. And I looked at, I don't know if you saw it over there. There's a beautiful film that I watched, like a kids' film by a guy called Charlie Maxey. He done the it's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox.
Oh
the
yeah,
Horse.
yeah.
Did you see it?
I've read it.
I've read the book as well. Yeah, but so profound. And they said one of the things in there is what we're here for is to love and be loved.
Absolutely.
And I'm a massive believer of that. I think that's where I've sort of bought, because I am ambitious and I do strive and I do spin these plates, and and we sort of spoke about it previously. You sort of feel like you're chasing something sometimes, but actually when it comes back to it, surrounded by just amazing people.
Yeah, got to have that.
Whether it's be within the business community, whether it be my wife, my kids, whatever that. Best mates who I've had for years, whatever that looks like, there's all the, and building those I guess what you're alluding to, it's great to have all them experiences, but actually we want to still be surrounded.
I think if you, I just start beating myself up here a little bit, but I think that because of those previous experiences and because things went really well, surfed the internet, surfed the wave of the internet. And then suddenly getting taken around the world because I was writing for Forbes and all these kind of things. It certainly went to my head.
Really?
You know what I mean? And it became like I'm really special and all that stuff. And I think I did lose sight of life and all that. I think I became a bit narcissistic. You know what I mean? I just with Kim Kardashian. Yeah, no, I can't. No, it's too low. I just got a bit up myself, and I think divorce probably helps in that self-reassemble. Do you know what I mean? But I feel as if there seems to be that the things that I achieved previously were based on a bit of an ego, based on a look at me type of thing, a bit of a show-off that maybe came back from school. Jesus Christ, it's like therapy. No, but I'm just being frank and open with you. And, being the only boy, Sunday's child and all that stuff. I think now, after kind of reassembling myself, so I use the same word. Now I think I'm a little bit more. I think I'm better now, and now hopefully I can achieve things from a basis of being a better individual rather than a show-offy child as I was for ages, which I used to get along with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It worked very well, but it wasn't particularly wholesome.
So what, you alluded then to obviously the Kim Kardashian. So that sort of period of your life, like you've interviewed some amazing people. I mean, look, we talk about fulfilment. This for me, sitting here in a room with you and people I host on here as the podcast, that's where I guess I feel most fulfilled.
You love it, don't you?
I absolutely
do.
That. It's
I can tell.
Hands down, of all the plates I spin, this is my happy place. I guess I love being.
Feels nice, doesn't it?
Yes, it's just what's not to love. I love having a chat, as we've alluded to, and most people know. But just sitting and speaking with people and just finding out their stories. And
but you're probably like me. You weren't trained to do this, right?
Yeah, no.
And that's what makes it good, because you're just going to get better and better, as much as I'm getting better. I'm actually quite a good interviewer now. Yeah. But it did take 10 years because I used to get really nervous.
Yeah.
I used to get Stockholm syndrome. I shouldn't be here. Then I'd probably get maybe a little bit pissed. Other times, have the gin instead of the water, just to give myself confidence. And again, that just goes back to what I just said about ego and being unstable and not particularly whole. But now I'm quite good at it. You know, but it's taken me ages. And I'm saying I'm quite good at it. I'm not that good at it, you know.
Yeah, see, I still, I struggle with the fact, I'm the same, I don't think I'm great. I've never learned to do it, don't know. I just love having a chat, and I think I'll just go in and let's just have a chat and see how it comes out.
That's why you don't need to be trained, because you like conversation and you like people. And if you like that, I got at some stage in the career or whatever that there were two things. This is slightly weird. You know, if you go out with a really good person or someone you know really well and you have lots of alcohol, but you have no hangover because you've had such a brilliant time. And other times you meet an idiot or someone you have to do work with and you have 3 pints, you feel terrible. So I only would drink with people that would give me, you know, joy, I suppose. And I think it's the same thing with the opportunities, the access, because of all the writing to meet these individuals and interview them. It was like, generally, when I spoke to them, I got better. Because they were better than me, you know what I mean. So, sure. you'd use longer words, or you know, it is a little bit pretentious, but you're just like, oh God, this guy is, or this girl is like super leagues ahead of me, but we're really getting on here. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't normally have met that person in the course of getting a taxi here from Brighton. You know what I mean? But it was the access that I was granted. And then realising this is an opportunity, you can't lose this, man. You've got to go and do as much as you can. I don't want to do it anymore. I did interview Tim Draper, who's a very famous Silicon Valley venture capitalist. Tech Barbecue, in Copenhagen.
I must admit, I watched that interview on YouTube.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. And again, like, and not criticising myself, but just what you bossed it. In my opinion, I think.
Well,
so.
I don't know if I bossed it. I didn't like him.
Really?
No, I hated him. I thought he was such a Trumpian idiot, and he was full of ego and he was full of showmanship. But a lot of people I know think he's amazing, right? But his big tie and all that stuff. And I was trying to keep it in how much I hated him. I didn't hate him, but you know, he represented lots of things I don't represent. But I think I did well when I interviewed him. Right, that's about as much as I can say, because the other times it's, oh God, why did you say this or why did you say that? It felt as if that was a maturation or me maturing as a interviewer, that one, because it had been a while because of COVID and all that stuff, and I'd done online with Tim Berners-Lee and Guns N' Roses, for God's sake. That was insane. But that was a bit. I hated all that. You know, you're only using 2 senses on Zoom. You know, hearing. The rest of it is touch and smell and the way we're interacting at the moment. So that did feel good. That.
It was quite. It looked like you're just so natural, and
it's not natural.
It looks like that, and I guess that's what it is. And people often go, oh yeah, you do really well, you come across well, blah blah blah. But you know, you take on some positive feedback, which is great, but at the same time, I
appreciate it.
Constant. But no, it was. But out of all them people, then all these people you've interviewed, what's been the most memorable interview and why?
It's probably I'll go back in time. So the prestigious Steve Wozniak, right? That was. I'll go back to that. But so Tim Berners-Lee on Zoom. Although he's a little bit controlled by his team and his wife, you know, don't ask him this, I hate that when you're not allowed to ask certain things. But the conversation I had with him, you know, the guy who created the World Wide Web, I mean, I'm not really a technologist, but that's a brain to talk to. You know what I mean? Then there was one that didn't happen, which would have been the best thing. So I was invited. I think it's about 4 years ago. It might be longer. COVID has screwed up perception, but I was invited to Starmus in Stockholm, like a 3-day science festival, and to be with Stephen Hawking for 3 days.
Wow.
And it was like to be with him for 3 days as like the guy he speaks to. And so, this is like being with Einstein for 3 days. Like this will be it. This will be the peak of it. You know, speaking to a voice box will be interesting as well. You know, but he was too ill to travel, so I couldn't do it. That's a regret. That is a mofo regret. I'm telling you. But
just to be in. Just to get to that stage and be in that arena.
Just to be invited. It's like, and just that would have been the ultimate, actually. But the probably the one I remember the most is Steve Wozniak in Beirut, 10,000 people. Someone else was going to interview, and I was just going there for £1,000 appearance fee, which I don't think ever was paid anyway. And I love Beirut. And then 3 days before I travelled, I got a phone call from the organisers, who's a really good friend now, and said, we've decided we're going to let you invite Steve Wozniak because you'd be better. And I couldn't believe that they'd even think that about me because I hadn't really done it before. And so I went over there and said, oh, my God, Jesus Christ. So I never do research on the people I interview.
Really?
No, never. It always has to be, even with Tim Draper, I'd heard of him, but I didn't, do anything. I think that's my way of doing it. It's not everybody's way of doing it. So with Wozniak, I had to be the co-host as well. So the host was effectively the first lady of Slovakia. She was the daughter of the president. He got remarried. His second wife didn't want to do all the functionary stuff or the ambassadorial stuff. So she was brilliant. She invited me to a wedding last year. that was amazing. She's a brilliant person. So she was, she obviously knew about protocol, diplomacy. So we were drinking a couple of days before in Beirut, and we got on really well. That's why I was invited to a wedding, I suppose. So she gave me some tips. Someone else, a guy called Mike Butcher, he's probably the best most connected technology journalist certainly in this country. And I said, got any tips? And he said, just remember the last thing they said, because you're going to be sitting there with your head full of questions, ideas. You're going to be looking down at a piece of paper or a phone, and then you'll say something brilliant you think it is, but it's not connected with the last thing that they said. Right, that was brilliant advice, really brilliant advice. So me and my friend go on stage. There's 10,000 people there. Steve Wozniak coming to Beirut. But everyone's there to see Steve Jobs. Really, it's by association, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I've been backstage at gigs, and I've been in the green room, and I've seen idolatrous, fans looking at bands but I've never seen anything like this. The way that people were looking at Wozniak, it was like God. It was mad. So I did the introduction, and she dissed me on stage. She said, "Well, here we are, Beirut. How you going? Why don't you smile, Monty?" And I looked at her, don't talk to me like that. Then just, okay, I'm not, because I'm so nervous. Because everyone's mouth gets smaller when you're nervous or you're aggressive. Have you ever been punched in the face by someone going like that? It's always like this. You know what I mean? And so I'm starting to get confidence, but in that kind of show-offy way, right? It looked all right, but I knew it was nervousness. And so then I've got him on stage for half an hour, right? Don't have to worry about the last thing you say, because he just talks all the time. And as a journalist or ex-journalist, if there are awkward silences, the interviewee will always fill them. Yeah. Or it's the worst interview in your life. So he could just talk and talk and talk. And there's a really good picture of me backstage where everyone is trying to, get his attention, and I'm sitting in the background looking like an evil person staring at him. It's a really good picture. And everyone went mad when he came on stage. And I sat on the sofa with him, and I was told by the organisers, my so-called mates, that he was going to be in CNN after half an hour, right? I had to finish at half an hour. Yeah. So, and I swear quite a lot. And I didn't want to swear, and I wanted my ex-wife and my son to be proud of me. There was a lot of pressure on myself. But it was going all right. You know what I mean? It was going all right. And I'd asked him, unlike Tim Berners-Lee, I'd asked him backstage, was there anything off limits? And he'd said no, right? So I said, well, give me a couple of stories, man, that I can bring up on stage. Because I wasn't fazed by him at all. I just thought he was at Apple, now he wasn't. I didn't see a Steve Wozniak charity foundation like built, it was like whatever. Yeah. And one of them was that he loved to smuggle, he'd once smuggled coke into Moscow. And I went, what? You? He goes, yeah. I used to love those, those tab tins. I went, oh, Coca-Cola. And because you couldn't get cans of Coke, you could only get these weird bottles or rip-offs. So he I mean, you crazy cat, Steve. Well, you put couple of cans in your luggage, you nutter. But when he was on stage, I tried to couch it without mentioning Coca-Cola. So I tried to put it in so is it true that you smuggled Coke into Moscow? But he didn't mention Coca-Cola. So everyone thought he was talking about, the other Coke. So that was a bit naughty. But I had to do something. And then I was looking at the ticker and I was doing all right, looking at the ticker. 40 minutes, I'm on the home run, do you know what I mean? 9 minutes. I'm just about there. 4 more questions I can get out of it, have a drink. And then it went to 39 minutes, the ticker. So the whole thing that my mates had told me about was that he had to be on CNN was a wind-up. It was always going to be an hour. So my head had gone, right? Because I thought, psychologically, I'm on the way in now. I've got 9 minutes to go.
Killing you there, mate.
And then it's 39 minutes, and thank God he spoke. Because I froze for a good 2 minutes. It threw me, completely threw me. I'd not exhausted the questions as much, but I was all right after about 5 minutes and recovered. And okay, just calm down. But that was extraordinary. And afterwards, just walking around, it was like everyone had wanted a selfie with me. Because I was that close to him, as if they could get associated to Steve Jobs via Steve Wozniak via his silly presenter. And then we went out to an amphitheatre that night in Beirut, and it was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. And it also led, obviously, to the rest of the stuff. If I hadn't have done that, if my mates hadn't asked me to do it, it wouldn't have been Steve Wozniak asking for me to interview him in Vienna about 9 months later, and it was just weird.
He asked for you?
Yeah, apparently. I'm not sure if it's that true. Apparently. I had an agent for a year. And we were just playing, hey Monty, hey Steve, how you going? How's things? How's Janet? She all right? Yeah, she's fine. We got a new dog, and we were just talking like we were like putting the bins out. Wow. But he did give me his business card, and it's basically silver, not silver, chrome, or what do you call it, steel, with his name on it and his private details. It's all it looks like it's been printed out from Starship Enterprise, all upside down and all that stuff. So that was probably the thing that led to all the other stuff, fortunately.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Preston Insurance Brokers. Insurance is all about peace of mind, making sure that you're protected no matter what. There's no such thing as one size fits all, which is why Preston Insurance Brokers take the time to understand your business, how it works, and how all the pieces fit together. Because they understand your needs and whatever risks your business faces, they can offer you bespoke insurance cover to help your business grow with confidence. Always safe in the knowledge that should the worst ever happen, they'll be here to help you weather the storm. Protecting businesses for over a decade, Preston Insurance Brokers will ensure that you're always in safe hands. Noel and the team have been looking after all my business insurance for many years and offer a truly fantastic personal service. To find out more, contact the team at www.prestoninsurancebrokers.co.uk. Your business, your insurance. Okay, back to the podcast. But then just a couple of things taken out of one. That first thing, like you said, something that you're not experiencing, not done it before, that's led to all them other things. But someone giving you that opportunity, and you going, I'll take it. Because how many other people, I wonder, in that, God, that's a bit no, I couldn't do that.
Do you think people would say no? Most
know.
people I know would just grab it, I suppose.
I guess you'd like to think so. You'd like to think an opportunity like that you wouldn't want to.
Oh, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, especially 10,000 people as well.
Dude. That used to be like twice Brentford's all capacity when we were in the lower leagues. It's like 2 Brentford crowds, yeah.
Well, but it's an amazing. Just again for me, that back to the whole thing about saying yes to experiences, having them opportunities going out there. But what an incredible thing to be in front of those people. But with him, with Steve, wasn't it? Like you said, and having that.
And I didn't screw it up. That was the major thing. I didn't.
And that must have then elevated that confidence in you. Is that where you sort of, after that, you talked about, the ego side of things? Did that, when that started to kick in then after that?
I think when Wozniak asked me the second time, I think that was a little bit, I was getting a little bit, he's going to ask me for a third time, but he never asked me again. And I think, I remember, this is kind of quite a good example of what a twat I am. is that on the first series of Big Brother, when I was a communications director, there was, I don't know what your audience is, but the first series in the UK, there was a character called Nasty Nick. He wasn't very nice. So basically, he got kicked off the show, but they stopped the internet cameras, if you know what I mean. They stopped the online cameras rolling because they thought there was going to be violence. So it wasn't my company, I was working for them. There was, I didn't really get it, but it's supposed to be an open platform, you can't turn off the cameras if it's going to be on the internet live and then it's on the telly the next day. So I went to the Guardian media pages and said, I'm happy to write about this, you know what I mean? So I wrote about it and, basically nicked a few conversations that I'd had internally. And they published it on the Monday, which was great for me, but then the people I work with, you shouldn't have done it, you're only the communications director, we should have been doing it, and it's like they were annoyed about me. And I'd said something in there about real networks, because you have to download a player, and then real networks, we had business with them. He gave me loads of grief a couple of days later because I'd given away numbers I shouldn't have done and all that stuff. It might have been my ego then, But he later said, a month later, saying this is the best PR we ever got, because the amount of, because that's when the Guardian media page was, it's still amazing, but it was amazing then. So then, what happened? Something happened, I can't remember. It was published somewhere else, or someone picked up on it, and then on the Wednesday there was a column in the Financial Times TV guy about Big Brother, and then said the Guardian had published this PR piece by the communications director of the streaming company and all that stuff. And I said, oh my God, I've really screwed this up. Went to a mentor. He said, listen, mate, if they're writing about you, don't worry about it. You've made it. You've just made it. So I was coming back from London on the train. I was head full of self-grandiose. And there was a ticket inspector on the train. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I shouldn't even have to pay for my ticket, bear in mind my status in life. So I said I didn't have a ticket because I was always skint anyway. And he said, and I was just checking this. It must have been like some weird 1999. It was like some weird connected device. And he said, "Can I have your autograph, please?" And I went, "Oh yeah, sure. What, did you see the piece in the Guardian or me being dissed in the FT?" He said, "No, for the ticket, mate." Do you know what I mean? Just to sign a credit card. And he looked at me like I was the biggest tosser in the world. And he was right. He was totally right. But that was as a 37-year-old man with a little bit of fame. Imagine when you're 19 and you're on some reality show or Love Island. Imagine what it would do to your ego. That was just a little stupid 37-year-old man having a little bit of this. And it had gone straight to my head.
Wow. It's hard, isn't it? Because you look back at that, and it looks like it's so accessible because there's so many reality shows. All youngsters looking at it now and fame of Instagram and all these things, and they think they can just dip their toe in and they're going to let this Insta-famous type thing. But
I think it's different now. But I think at that time, and this was 90. It was 98, 99.
I remember that. I remember that first series.
And I don't know, I'm not really happy to have been associated with it, bearing in mind what came about. I just thought this is my calling card, way before Steve Wozniak, that I was on the most popular TV show and I was writing about it for The Guardian and I'd had this experience for 9 months. It's still a pretty good experience.
Yeah, sure.
But what it led to, I'm not really a reality show fan anymore, if you know what I mean. It's quite damaging, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the likes of I'm a Celebrity. Who was that guy that used to do the talk shows? Not Vine. The one that someone killed themselves. David? No. The talk show during the day. Can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
Vine. Jeremy Vine.
Yeah.
Is it Jeremy Vine?
No, it was Jeremy something. Come to me. I know you mean.
It wasn't Vine. I've got Vine in my head. Oh, I had it then. But anyway, it'll come back to me at the end. But, what the damage that had done to people.
Jeremy
Kyle, give me 5.
We're in. I knew it coming.
So close.
Between us, we got
just
there.
thought I'd get a bit of dyslexia with the same amount of letters. And what has happened with that, and it's now discredited, that type of TV. And I was watching I'm a Celebrity, I'm not naming the names of anyone that was on it, but that's quite cruel, that show.
Yeah.
And I think that time will not judge it well.
Yeah.
And these so-called national treasures of Ant and Dec, were actually part of a slightly weird, weird, cruel. I watched Traitors. That was also cruel. In the last couple of weeks, where I'm not so pleased that my time on Big Brother was anything I'm proud of, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Someone else would have done it, I'm sure, but I'm still. It's not something that I.
Yeah, you should, right, yeah. I'm with you. I want to move because I want to talk a little bit about. I always talk about sort of challenges and stuff on the podcast, and especially being an entrepreneur or running businesses and being involved with the ups and downs. I want to talk. You obviously, you've been involved in the tech space, I guess, as an advisor and who works with different companies and stuff like that. What the narrative within the tech space, from what my understanding is, fail fast, fail forward, whatever that looks like. What's your relationship like with failure?
We've had many a conversation, me and my gang, I suppose, about you're not going to get anywhere without failure, Yeah. And we were talking about all the, and then everyone they make a kind of, a ribbon out of failure as if it's like a success because you failed. And it's like I said, to be honest, I would much prefer every single thing that I ever did was successful. I would never ever fail at anything, and I'd turn my hand to that, be a winner, and turn out to be a winner. That's ultimately, I'd like to not ever fail, ever.
Really?
Ever. No, I just want to win all the time. Everyone wants to win all the time.
But do you not think that how much you learn from?
No, of course. I mean, but that is the narrative. Do you know what I mean? But the ultimate narrative is underneath all of those. Yes, they do make you better, and you fail better, and you fail slower, or whatever. Ultimately, we just want to win all the time. Let's just get it clear, right? Then we can talk about the failure, right? We all want to win, and we're all a little bit pissed off when we fail, and then recouch it into this is a journey of discovery. No, but I mean, piss taken aside, I think it's like it's a bit like relationships. You have some mates who married their sweetheart, and they've probably just had sex with the one woman or the one man in all their life. And you think, what a sad life, you haven't had these experiences, ups and downs and different experiences as me, but they're generally a lot happier in a way, all of that stuff. No, but in a kind of business sense, I suppose, it's not so much, I think it's just, life is weird. It's not going to, Brentford will lose next match to Bournemouth. That's the way it goes. I mean, life through the Brentford lens, you need to know no more. I'm serious. Is that, life is not linear, and life is weird and circular, and time is odd, and time is the maddest thing anyway. So it just depends how you define yourself at the time. They say in America, there are no poor people in America. They're just resting billionaires, which I've always liked that. Because it's all based on time. At this point in time, you're a failure. At this point in time, you're a success. And time is maybe something that everyone's trying to work out what it means. I'm running out of time, getting older. It's changing me, I think. And it's the same with business. It's that you just have to have ultimate confidence that whatever happens in life as an individual, you'll be all right. Yeah. It was meant to be, and the same thing in business. There's going to be recessions. There's going to be deep recessions. There's going to be boom times. It's just life. Just deal with it, I suppose.
But with you yourself, like, would you say a challenging time would be, personal life and I guess and business in a whole, but challenges you've gone through, like the divorce, for example, in the last couple of years, would that be one of the most challenging times in your life? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I respect my ex-wife. It was a very benign divorce. We have a beautiful son as a result of our connection. We fell out of love, and we had a really not nice. It was not nasty, but we had a
amicable.
What was it? Conscious decoupling, I suppose, which I derided as a phrase 10 years ago. And I think it's quite a good one. But that's probably the ultimate challenge. Is in a pandemic, you know what I mean? Being older, of course. But I would say that all the other experiences, the way I think I dealt with it, when I read about it, 2 years, you're going to be screwed up for 2 years. 2 years of time, so as long as I can just get through these first disruptive months, I've got all this life experience. I would be a loser if I didn't use that time to get through it. So it's turned out amazingly. And it was also amazing because it was non-toxic, no one else was involved, And we split the money, and she'll be fine. She's a good person. She's my son's mother. She's got great support of her family and friends. She'll be brilliant, and hopefully I will be, or I will flourish. Not flourishing yet, but getting ready for it. But I would say that's probably been a bigger challenge than any business thing ever. Or any money worry, or any like, oh my God, how am I going to pay the mortgage this month? I mean, that's chicken feed to that type of thing. But I think it's a time of reflection. I mean, I don't think I've ever done anything in business. I mean, I've missed a few opportunities. Like back to regrets. I worked for a games company called Player X in London before the launch of the iPhone. So we were the aggregator and the publisher of mobile games before they were a thing. And there was a Finnish company that got in touch with us, and we'd failed 50 of their games because they were buggy and they were pretty useless. And they were running out of money. And they said, well, you can have this game for $250,000. We'll give you 51% share. You know what I mean? As long as you get it, spend the money to get it licensed and all that stuff. And we said no. And that game was Angry Birds. So turned down a few billion on that one. Wow. So when you're talking about failure, mate,
wow.
Welcome to my world.
Wow.
That was a big one, actually. I turned down, when I was working for Victoria Real, I turned down a job at Amazon in Slough because it was too far to go, because I was quite happy living in Brighton. That would have been with options and all that stuff. That was another one. There's a theme here, Sam. No, but I think that's.
But they all put us on, like you said, all them things.
But it doesn't make. But it's like the fact that you believe in yourself, without the ego and the narcissism, which can help, right? Yeah. But that you believe that is just part of the line or the circle, whatever you believe in. I never really. I mean, they're good stories.
Yeah.
I went to knock. I went to Rovio when I went to India for a couple of years, and I came back and started to revive my career as a tech journalist. And I was invited to Helsinki, meet all the companies and everything. And one of them was Rovio Mobile, the owners of Angry Birds. Yeah. So went in there, all these other journalists, and he goes, "Hello, journalists, welcome to Rovio. Now, which one of you is Monty Munford?" And I knew what was coming. I went, "Me." He goes, Monty, you used to work at Player X. I said, "Yep." He said, "You know what we used to call you? We used to call you Rovio Killer." It's like, yeah, I know. He goes, "But we have a message for you now." I said, "Mother," turns round to the whole of his staff, and they go, 1, 2, 3. They all stand up, about 200 people. And he goes, "But now we are all billionaires." And I was nearly 50. And, I'm earning no money. I've just got back from India, and I just like, don't dig it in. But then it turned into, they gave me the first ever Angry Bird slingshot toy. What do they call it in the States? A plush or something? I can't remember the name of it. So then me and my boy did a video, stupid, worst video ever on YouTube, about the world's first Angry Bird. We're going to kill the pigs. So we put some kind of pigs, like plastic pigs. And then I realised, actually, I should have played the game. You're supposed to kill the pigs. So that was number one mistake. And we got 1 million views.
Wow.
I made a few quid on AdSense. It was mad. But, you just bows and arrows of misfortune and all that. Yeah, so actually, I'm a failure. I'm a failure with a massive ego, just got divorced.
But you've got some stories to tell,
my God,
mate.
it might be true. No, but you've got to keep your chin up, right?
Mate, idea what? But that's, again, for me, just listen. You're here telling these stories about and their experiences in life that are epic.
Yeah, well, they have been pretty good. Yeah, and it's all it is about memories. Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking about at the moment or what I'm thinking about at the moment, and we have pretty like minds, I think. Yeah. But you see all this around you completely differently to me. I see the world completely different to you. Everyone sees the world completely differently. And what you think is normal for your brain or your filter or the way you see things, it's quite difficult to think that someone can think about it in a different way. Yeah. The likes of Steve Jobs and all those type of visionaries, they weren't particularly nice people. Yeah. And it's like D.H. Lawrence, the writer, once said, "Never trust the artist, trust the tale." So don't trust the person, trust the story.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take that either way if you want to. I've always liked the story. But I still think you have to have integrity on the person that creates us. The person who creates the story has to have integrity.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be serious underneath whatever carapace of jollity that you want to kind of portray. But you have to be serious and you have to be true. Yeah. You have to be authentic.
100%. 100%. I posted it yesterday, exactly that, about, I think, whatever goals we set ourselves this year, whatever, New Year's resolutions we've got, whatever you do in business, in life, or whatever it is, just as long as you do it with authenticity.
Absolutely.
It's got to be, and in other words you mentioned there about integrity, like authenticity, integrity, probably two of the biggest values for me, I think,
But that's why we're like-minded.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think that's where, as long as you can do them things,
even if it means you turn down money, turn down an opportunity because it doesn't feel a bit dirty.
Yeah.
Stay with that.
Yeah.
You have to stay with it.
I 100% agree. I like, look about people I interview on here. People have come on and made millions and all them things, and what that looks like. Happiness doesn't equate to happiness and fulfillment and all them things that actually.
Well, it doesn't harm it.
No. And I've sort of said this. There's still something inside. I'll get conflicted here sometimes because they're my true values, and I really believe them. And I've always thought to myself, whatever I do in life, in business especially, I'll do it with integrity and authenticity, and I won't ever screw someone over. And I'll do that, and I'll get to that. But there is still that part of me that has got that ambitious side. Well, actually, I would like to just get to that point of and sit there with a few quid and go, actually, I know what it's like now, and I'm okay with it.
I think all it is again, it's about time. Right?
Yeah.
If you've got integrity and you've got also resilience as well as the authenticity, it's going to take you longer to get there. If you want to cut corners and be a wanker, you'll get there quicker, but it won't feel good. You'll get there a bit slower than people that make up. No, well, I hope you get there quickly, but you'll get there slower just because of those values. And then it becomes even more beautiful when you get there. And it will happen to you because the universe will be kind to you because you're a good man.
I'll take that, mate. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, look, there was something I wanted to pick your brain because this is an area that obviously you've advised on a lot. I know nothing about the whole world of cryptocurrency. I wanted to move on to that type of thing, just because I'm limited or no knowledge actually of that arena. But I know a lot of listeners will do, and I hear people talking about it a lot, and it's of interest. So I'm just keen to get your take on what you think the world of cryptocurrency is going to look like.
Well, I mean, I've got another story of failure, I suppose. I got in a bit late. I realised that Bitcoin as a technology has never been hacked, ever. The exchange has been hacked in other places, but Bitcoin itself as a technology, a transparent code that can't be fiddled with, changed, redacted as a means of doing any form of exchange. I thought that's really interesting, really interesting. Ethereum, the second biggest cryptocurrency, not only is it a blockchain as well, a chain of blocks. I mean, any listener that can easily find out about this stuff, the Idiot's Guide, it doesn't take long to work it out, to be honest. And I'm not a technologist and I got it. But with Ethereum, you can do things. You can put decentralized apps, dApps, on Ethereum. You can create stuff on Ethereum. You can do stuff. That's where decentralized finance comes from. All of this comes from the Ethereum blockchain. So I got interested in it, and then I had some money in the wallet, and then I woke up one morning and the wallet was gone. Someone had hacked me. It was £25,000, right?
Wow.
That is now worth about 300 grand. Right, so someone nicked 300 grand off me. That's the truth of it. It wasn't that I made a mistake. It was stolen from me. And so when that happened, the whole thing's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? It's just stupid. It's Ponzi. It's full of runs. There's holes everywhere. And I just enough. I mean, I wrote about it for the BBC, and I still get weekly emails. Oh, I've had my cryptocurrency stolen. Can you help me? No, I fucking can't. I don't want to be reminded of it. But good luck. I don't want to be too much of a tussle about it. And so I left it all as a stupid thing, I mean, I'll be honest, that 25 grand wasn't my investment, and a lot of that was profit because I'd done all right out of it. It wasn't as if, and I also I will get that back.
Yeah.
You know, I will, and I probably have done. So then, under lockdown, which is probably about 18 months, the one thing I was interested about crypto is because I was writing for so many places,
Sure.
you usually get an inkling of what's coming next because there's splurge of press releases. So it'd be like, they'll all be about crowdsourcing, so crowdsourcing's coming up.
Yeah.
You know, and what I saw with the crypto thing wasn't get rich schemes. It was like hugely deep technological coding, creating something else. And I think if you get rid, and I became a believer because it had all tightened up a little bit when I came back in about 2 years ago. And I still believe that fundamentally this decentralised is great. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, this is just like the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not really like the internet. It wasn't the start of the internet where people were doing stuff on the internet and everyone said, oh, this is really bad, it's evil, it's really going to go down, you're all ripping people off. There wasn't anything like that, but there is with crypto. Because there's a lot of interest from the banks that have ripped us off for most of my life. Yeah. Because it's a threat to them, it's dangerous to them. Now, crypto doesn't and hasn't helped itself, right? With holes in exchanges, wrong uns. You know, this SBF guy, I mean, how anyone believed that, huckster or mountebank or whatever crossword clue you want to think of is unbelievable. I mean, it's just madness. But fundamentally, I think that if you've been living in I'm just an A-level economist, right, as I said earlier, that if you're living in a kind of global financial situation where it collapsed in 2008 and money's been false and quantitative easing or anything like that, the fact that the dollar is stable, the fact that any fiat is any sovereign currency is stable is beyond me. The fact that interest rates have been artificially low since 2008 has been no good for anyone because you can't invest money because there's no interest rate to be had. So what do you do with your money? You put it into things that create bubbles. So you put it into cryptocurrency, you put it into houses, and those just create inflatable bubbles, which, you know what, you've seen crypto popped this year, you're going to see house prices pop next year because of this fundamental underlying stupidness. You know what I mean? And crypto, of course, there's a little bit too much confidence in the crypto community. Oh, it's gone down, it's bounced back again. And there's technological things like the halving of Bitcoin and all that stuff. But fundamentally, I still believe in it because I think anything that's got value has got scarcity. And with Bitcoin, there can only be 21 million Bitcoins. You can have bits of them, but ultimately that's the scarcity. It's like gold. It takes a lot of effort to get it out of the ground. And these things have real value because of their scarcity. You know, like a Maradona signed picture, the World Cup itself. These things have got a value that people would love to be part of or be associated with. Bitcoin's middling around $17,000. Ethereum's about $1,200. The coin that I was involved with, another failure. I was worth about 3 million last year. Now I'm worth about 25 grand. But it doesn't matter because the only thing that matters is when you come in and when you get out.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, when did you buy your house, when did you sell your house? It doesn't matter what the price is. It's up to your life and your time, your sense of time, that I want to buy that then, and then I want to sell it then, or I might have to sell it then or whatever. So what I would say about cryptocurrency for anyone who's listening is just do a bit of research into it. Forget all of the bullshit around it. Forget all of the noise, because the noise happens between when you buy and when you sell. But just have a look at it. Have a look at it, and it's very easy to get the fundamentals because it's about immutable technology and scarcity, right? That's what it's about, and those two things go along pretty much of your values and my values of authenticity. You know what I mean? And I think crypto is authentic. It's just the noise around it has held it back a bit, but it will prevail. Believe me, I'm not giving financial advice and nothing like that because that's not what I'm saying. Sure. But I am a believer, and that comes from someone that was really burnt early on, and I've seen it tighten up. There's a lot of opposition to it. from traditional finance or TradFi or whatever they call it, and they've, it hasn't helped himself with certain individuals. But I'm a believer still.
Wow.
I am.
That's interesting, and like you say, it's taken out of that, similar, like you said, with house prices, whatever. When is the right time to buy a house? When's there's obviously it'd be great to buy it when things are in the thing, and then you sell it when it comes to the top. But it's all related to, like, you could hold on and wait. Like, I remember we bought our house last year in August. You go, actually, is that the worst time to buy? Actually, we bought it just before the price that we got our fixed rate mortgage, and it was okay. So I go, that's a good time. And my wife, not being so much of an optimist as I am, she's like, what's going to happen in a couple of years?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't know what's going to happen in a couple of years. You just got to do what you can. Same with business, with anything. I always say you do the best you can with what you've got, information you've got at that time.
Absolutely, and it's all, again, it's about at that time. Time. I mean, I'm out of a 20-year-old marriage. I paid the school fees, I paid the mortgage. Now I've got a bit of wedge. I've never made money out of money because I was an anti-capitalist idiot. You know what I mean? And now I've got a few pots here and there. Interest rates are good for me. Okay, so if I want to buy a house at that value with a pretty conservative opinion that they come down 10% in the next year, then I'm earning money this year by doing nothing because I want to buy in a year's time, which I think will be a good time to buy. But then it's like, well, how long have you got? It could be that, it might go down 5% next year, and it's like, then you're in stasis and you don't do anything. So I think I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You just get on with it. If it goes wrong, clearly lots of things go wrong in life. But it's nice to win. It's nice to buy at the bottom and sell at the top.
Yeah, of course.
People love that. I love that.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah, of course. I get it. Mate, listen, it's been fascinating. Just before we come towards the end and go into our quick fire questions, you alluded to it earlier about, and before we come up, as we was walking up the stairs, you said about obviously going, as we're recording this, you're going away in a few days to write your next book.
Write my book, Vancouver Island.
And you mentioned to me walking up the stairs that this is like 25 years in the making.
Yeah, it is.
Of you. So, like, just tell me about that, bro. Like, where you are right now, like we alluded to sort of fulfilment and stuff like that. Is this your going out there and
there's no pressure in it. But my first book was a third rubbish, a third autobiographical, and a third pretty decent. So there was something in there. I knew, and I know certain people that I respect have said the same. You probably said there was a bit more crap in it than I said. But it was my first effort. It was untrained, and I've been practicing for 25 years by writing newsletters, writing technological articles about things I don't really know too much about, because it's all about craft and it's all about time again, and writing. And I've got 25. You know that when you see those kind of blurbs, he used to be a Forbes columnist from New York, worked for Telegraph, as you said when I came in. He's written widely from BBC and The Economist, Mashable, Financial Times. This is his first novel. You know what I mean? I've got all this in my head, and so basically it's a book. My best friend died about 5 years ago. Me and his sister put his ashes on the Ganges a year after that. And after trying to work out what my book's going to be about, what my next book's going to be about, I'm just going to write to him and say, I miss you, man. So I don't have to create characters. I can get some grief about his death out of the way. I think there's been a lot of grief for me over the last couple of years that's worked out, but it's been a very difficult process. And so I'm going to be writing to him about, mate, you were right, it was Kiwi, Warren Tucker. You wouldn't believe all your stupid conspiracy theories have come true. I'm stuck in a room, I can't move, And then I don't really want to bring my marriage into it, but it will probably be within that grieving process. But it's all going to be told through the medium of India. And the first time I went to India in the 80s, and using that kind of dreamlike experience and memory of India into a story of love and grief of where we are at the moment. I mean, it's not going to be in Hello magazine, I shouldn't think, and I want it to be authentic, and I want it to be fucking intellectual. And I want the people to like the person. It was the first book that I wrote about someone who was based on me who wasn't very nice, which was getting it out of my system. I think I'm a bit nicer than I was when I did the first book, so maybe people will get into it. And I've got an amazing 20 people that are going to read the manuscript first, and they will not be short of telling me what to do, and that's the authenticity that I have in my friendships and my circle, is that there is no... I was with Gary Vaynerchuk, the big marketing guy. He came to my club in London a few years ago. I was there with a couple of other journalists from the Times and TechCrunch, and he was holding forth, and I'd heard from his CEO that you've got an hour with Gary. Gary wants to make 30 grand an hour whenever he travels, because that's what his price. If he's on stage, he charges $250,000.
Wow.
And it was all kind of good, and it's fun. He was a good storyteller. He wants to buy the New York Jets and all this stuff. I've seen him at conferences since. And I said to him, oh, that's all very well, but if you've got a group of friends that only think you're a bit of a C word, right, and the two... He didn't mean to use that word. He didn't use... I said, no, man, I'm telling you, right, I'm not... Listen, whatever they said, do you think if you've got a bunch of people, like I have, that think you're a bit of a... And he didn't. He didn't have any mates like that. He didn't have anyone to bring him down to earth, or anyone to, to give him maybe unself authenticity, And the question was, it was worth saying the question. I was pushing it a bit, but that is what the beauty of my life at the moment, I think, is that I do have that circle of authentic mates who think if I'm being a bit of an idiot, they will bring me down to earth straight away. You know what I mean? And vice versa. And that is a level which I'm really happy to have reached, you know what I mean, based on the people I know who are making me. They say that you're judged on your friends. Well, listen, I'm very happy to be judged by my friends, really, more than ever in my life.
I love that, mate. That's a brilliant way to wrap up. I think I've listened to. He's just done an interview actually with Stephen Bartlett, Gary Van.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I listened.
He's all right. He's all right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I guess you get to that stage or whatever, and how many people he's surrounded with.
He's not surrounded by many people. He's got VaynerMedia, right, which is, I suppose, that is a support network.
But I guess how many, like you said, true friends. But actually, how many of them are people that just blow smoke up his arse? If that is the...
Well, we'll see, because there's an event in Dubai in March when I get back from Canada, and the organiser's saying, you've got to do a fireside chat with Gary V. I said, well, we have a bit of history, mate. Do you know what I mean? Well, let's just see if he's a man, if he will be interviewed by me, based on what I just told you. I have a feeling he won't.
Wow.
I have a feeling he won't.
Yeah, mate. Awesome. Well, look, I could talk to you. I know, I could speak to you till you go away, probably for 3 days.
Vice versa, man. Don't worry about you not being good at this. You're brilliant.
Mate, listen, I'm grateful. I've loved it. Like I said, that first time we met, and when you just click with someone, I sat there and had lunch with you, and I went away, and I was like, can't wait to get you. And I'm so grateful for you coming on. Look, we're going to finish always. And
I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Mate,
thank you.
You're very kind. And look, let's finish with our quick fire
questions.
Go
on then, embarrass me.
What one piece of advice do you give to your teenage self?
Grow up a little bit quicker.
Brilliant. Who has inspired you in your career and why?
Bob Dylan.
Why?
Because he taught me about love, and he taught me about literature, and he taught me about words, he taught me about poetry, and he turned me from a punk rocker into a hippie.
Wow. Amazing. Bob Dylan.
Always. They played him earlier downstairs.
Really?
They're playing a track off Blood on the Tracks, which was his, oh my God, maybe my book is my Blood on the Tracks moment, because Dylan wrote his best album after he got divorced. Shelter from the Storm, that's what it was. Great, that's a great album.
Shelter from the Storm, what a tune. Can you recommend a book or podcast to our listeners that has had an impact on you?
Recently, I would say... what's it called? It's called by Edward Chancellor, written in 2022, hardback, and it's called The Price of Time, which is about interest rates over history, all the way back to Iraq, and what they should be, what they shouldn't be. And on the time element, the physicist, what's his name, Rossetti, it's called The Order of Time, which completely changes things on its head. So time goes faster or slower in the Himalayas than it does in the Dead Sea, and we're on a weird planet where time doesn't exist in the universe. It only exists here because of gravity. I'm not a physicist, but that rocked my world. That all of these kind of Truman Showisms that we live may be just exactly that. Or maybe it's just the Truman Show. It's a great film.
Hey, final one.
Go on.
What is your one rule for living a fulfilled life?
Authentic, Brentford FC, motorbikes, travel and love. And friendship.
Mate, I love it. Listen, I honestly, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you, and I'm so grateful for you coming on. Motorbikes we didn't even touch on, and we need to. And
let's go for let's
me and you need to get on a bike.
Let's go on a bike.
Somewhere.
Let's go to Croatia.
I'm in. Let's do it. Listen, I wish you all the best with the book.
Thank you.
It's going to be epic. I'm sure. I can't wait to read it when it's out. And
I'll give you a copy.
Mate, I'd love to.
And
signed, hopefully.
Always. Thanks for inviting me. I've had a really nice time.
Mate, it's been awesome. And that, as they say, is a wrap. This is the County Business Talks podcast, produced by H2 Productions.